What am I doing with my life? This is a question I have asked myself many a time. What are my plans? Where am I going? What am I thinking? The questions ran brazenly through my mind as I grabbed my backpack to travel the world in 2007, or decided to retrain as a teacher in 2010, or flew to Afghanistan in 2012, or drove my mobile classroom along country roads in 2015, or even moved to China in the middle of a global pandemic in 2020. And you may be asking yourself these same questions as I stand here before you today. What was she thinking? Or perhaps, why did she make those choices? There's a comedian that I like who does this skit about needing a flag to conquer a country. His catchphrase is, "No flag, no country." For some reason, in the musings of my mind, I have appropriated his take on proprietary rights to needing to have a plan to lead a successful life. My catchphrase would be, "No plan, no life." For a long time, I strongly believed this and strived to get that plan to have that life. I mean, let's face it, you're in school and people are asking you, what are your plans for university? You get to university and suddenly everyone's asking you, what are your plans for after you graduate? If you're in a relationship, the questions range from, do you plan to move in together, to have you got plans to marry, have children? If you happen to be single, then the questions are more along the lines of, have you got any plans to meet someone? From the mundane, what are your plans for the weekend, to the milestones, what are your future plans? It seems that to have any life worth people's interest, you need to have a plan. Plans suggest that you've got it together, that you are in control of your life. You know what you are doing and how you are doing it. To be without a plan seems irresponsible, almost reckless. As a teenager on the cusp of adulthood, everyone I knew seemed to be constructing a plan. So what happens if you've got no plans? If my mind were a planning bureau, year 35 was singled out as the deadline, the cutoff point to get that plan in order. I had few plans in my 20s, most of them half-hearted attempts that I didn't stick to for very long. But I kept optimistic. All would fall into place by the time I hit 35. You're wondering, right? Staring at an empty champagne glass on my planless 35th birthday, reality hit me. I had no professional plans, no personal plans. In my borrowed words, it was most definitely a no plan, no life. As it turns out, during all of those years, I may have had something better, a compass. Simon Sinek is an author and motivational speaker. You may have heard of his book, Start With Why, and his theory of the Golden Circle. To summarize, Sinek believes that people are inspired by a sense of purpose, what he identifies as the why, which lies at the heart of his Golden Circle. From there, we move to the how, which represents people's processes or methods. And finally, we get to the what, the outcome or the result inspired by the why. Sinek's book and theory were targeted at a business audience and aimed to instigate a discussion about inspirational leadership. but personally, his theory has allowed me to shift my definition of what it means to lead a successful life. Sinek makes a clear distinction between being successful, like an achievement, and feeling successful. An achievement is planned. In Sinek's words, it is something you reach or attain like a goal. It is something tangible, clearly defined, and measurable. Success, in contrast, is a feeling or a state of being. This quote really resonated with me. I can clearly recall reflecting on some of my past experiences. I can clearly recall not feeling successful despite having been committed to reach my goal. At other times, reaching my goal came hand in hand with a feeling of intense satisfaction. I felt successful. I began to wonder, could I use the golden circle to understand the difference? And if that was the case, could I then predict which goals would leave me feeling successful as well as being successful? Let's go back in time. I have just finished high school, and I have half-heartedly made plans to go to university because that seems to be the compulsory next step in my life's journey. I have chosen what I'm going to study, modern languages and European studies, and I could detail the how I spent those 4 years of studying, but I feel we have more valuable ways to spend our time together. At the end of it all, I obtained my bachelor's degree with merit. I was successful at achieving my goal. Did I feel successful? Not really. Relief was more akin to what I felt inside, followed by panic. Now I needed to come up with the next step in this factitious plan. This type of scenario repeated several times in my life. I always focused on the what, the outcome, and then proceeded to get busy to motivate myself with the how. Rarely did I consider the why of my actions, and few people in my entourage asked me that question or encouraged me to think about the inner purpose my plan was serving. Perhaps that is why most of my plans felt like such drudgery. Endless hoops I felt I had to jump through in order to achieve that successful life. So there I was, champagne glass in hand, clearly successful, right? On my 35th birthday, reflecting on all those best laid plans that had led me to this lonely, dead end. Had it all been a grind? The answer is thankfully no. Sometimes I had felt successful. I had experienced the rush of intense satisfaction, the urge to shout out joyfully, "I've done this! I've achieved this!" Which brings me back to the experiences I mentioned at the beginning. My round-the-world trip, graduating as a Waldorf teacher, traveling to Afghanistan, creating my mobile classroom, La Roulotte Polyglotte, and nurturing my students' understanding of language are just some examples of joyful achievements I have felt over the years. What do these diverse experiences have in common? For one, they weren't really planned. In fact, to many outsiders, they seem to deviate quite drastically from what I should be doing. They seemed haphazard, last minute, and with no real connection to my life. And those adjectives would be correct if you focused only from the perspective of the what the outcomes, and the how, methods, which leads me naturally to the why. When you look at those experiences, you see that there is nothing random to them, that they are the result of many years of reflection and dreams, and that they are connected by a common thread. The thread that binds them together is purpose. They all align with and combine my innermost values: creativity, curiosity, education, and independence. Take my trip to Afghanistan in 2012. The country captured my curiosity and my imagination when, as a teenager, I avidly turned the pages of one of my favorite novels, The Far Pavilions, by MMK. But it took a further 20 years and the opportunity to host some English storytelling workshops in a local school, creativity and education, for me to seemingly, on the spur of the moment, take action and travel to Kabul and the Panjshir Valley. And many people gasped when I announced that I was leaving the security of my teaching position in a school in Madrid to drive around country roads in the south of France in a converted camper van offering English and French language lessons. I mean, just why? But the truth is, my mobile classroom, La Roulotte Polyglotte, was an ideal way for me to honor my need for independence, my love of education, and ultimately proved to be a nurturing space for creativity and curiosity for myself and for my students. In both of these instances, I was very clearly aligned with my purpose, even if not fully aware of it at the time. What I do more clearly recall are my feelings. I felt successful. In fact, I felt on fire. And perhaps it was that inner glow that helped ignite a spark in the other. The connections made with the students in Kabul and the students in La Roulotte Polyglotte felt so mutually rewarding that regardless of the outcome, I felt successful. So what does that really mean? Let's borrow once again from Simon Sinek's theory. The why is your purpose, what you stand for, what drives and motivates you. It is your core inner compass that can guide your actions on this journey of life, so that not only do you inspire yourself, but you also inspire others. If you ask me to explain my choice of subject for that first university degree, I will give you a rather dry and rational explanation. However, ask me about my journey to becoming a language teacher or my storytelling workshops in various countries, and suddenly you will see the spark that ignites my sense of purpose and makes me excited to share my journey with you. When I am truly aligned with my why, then whatever action I undertake fills me with an inner joy that comes with feeling successful, even if I do not achieve a specific goal. So as I stand here before you today, I am not saying have no plans, make no plans. The how and the what are necessary tools as we advance through life. They provide structure, a sense of safety and security. In short, a how-to manual that is comfortably appealing. But ask yourself this question when you are making your own plans. Do you want to hear about someone's outcomes and the methods they used to achieve their goals? Or would you rather know the reasons that motivated their actions, the dreams and values that sustain their methods, so that not only could they be successful, but they could also feel successful. On life's journey, let the what and the how be the passengers. The why is your driver, and that might mean deviating from the original plan.